We are so excited to get this conversation going about shipping and logistics today. So, to kick things off, we're excited to bring in some trusted expertise from a member of FedEx leadership for you today. Ryan Kelly serves as the Vice President of E-commerce and Alliance Marketing at FedEx, and he has been really leading the company's e-commerce strategy for about a decade. Ryan brings a wealth of knowledge to today's topic of shipping and logistics. And though unfortunately he couldn't join us live today, he was kind enough to sit down with me a few days ago so he could offer his thoughts on shipping and logistics and general, more broad advice for small businesses. So we will go to that discussion now. Hello, everybody. My name is Meredith Medlin, and I am so excited to be joined today by Ryan Kelly from FedEx. And we're going to have a great conversation. So, Ryan, do you mind introducing yourself quickly before we jump into our questions?
I would. Hi, Meredith. I am Ryan Kelly. I head up e-commerce and small and medium business here at FedEx. I've been here for a little bit over a decade, which makes me really old in the industry. And I'm really excited to spend some time with you guys today. Just want to say congrats to everybody that's participating in this. Special thank you to AOF and the Small Business Grant Award winners who are kind of contributing here. So just very, very nice to meet you all.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for being here, Ryan. We're excited. We have an enthusiastic group of folks in this seminar and in this entire series and all of the work that FedEx and AOF are doing together. And so we're really great opportunity to learn from successful e-commerce businesses. So we'll get started with our conversation with you by asking, what tips do you have for small businesses in general, but then also specifically to shipping and logistics if they're selling online?
Fantastic. So I guess my first one is to be purposeful. To be purposeful when you set your strategy and don't let other people's strategy dictate yours. You know, don't chase an unrealistic expectation. Don't try to mirror somebody else that isn't who you want to be as a small business or as a business just in general. I think that's one of the things that just a lot of people kind of get caught up in is, you know, following what's in the hype, what's in the headline, all that kind of stuff. And I think that's a lot of what takes people off mission. And so stay kind of, you know, true to yourself, true to why you started your business in the first place. Second thing, my guess is you've all experienced some form of failure throughout this journey. And you know, there's that saying, it's, you know, fail fast and learn. And I think sometimes people kind of just say that and they don't really kind of lean into it. We've actually codified it a little bit here at FedEx where we talk about QDM for quality driven management. And we have something where one of our principles of QDM is measure, measure, measure. Measure success, measure failure, and measure variation. And I think that philosophy actually kind of comes into here really well. Like, make sure that you're continually measuring success, measuring failure, and measuring variation that generated the failure or generated the success. I'd say be curious, build an amazing network of people, you know, friends, all those kinds of things that you can learn from. There's a saying that I have no clue who it's from, but one of my former mentors used to always say, none of us is smart as all of us. And it's just something that always resonates with me. And no matter how, you know, smart you think you are, there's always somebody else out there that has that little piece of information that's going to make us all better. So those are kind of my general things that I would share with you. As it relates to shipping and logistics, there's a lot there. I would say the delivery experience itself is so important and so big when you think about the total customer experience. So really make sure that you're spending as much time, effort, you know, strategically thinking about your transportation and logistics kind of right from the get-go. One of the things we always talk about here is not just, you know, transit time. We talk about click to door. So when was that moment of when a consumer said, yes, I want that, I will give you my money, versus when did they actually get it? And so you have to think about the entire supply chain in that process. The other big thing is think about visibility. So make sure that you're giving that consumer visibility to when they're going to get their item. A lot of consumers, they really don't care when they get an item. They just want to know what to expect. If they don't know what to expect, you know what they're going to do? Call customer service. And so that drives up costs. So make sure that you're really providing good visibility. And then the last one, returns. I am a returns geek, like absolutely a returns geek. And make sure that you're really spending some time thinking about your returns process. In e-commerce land, returns can be 30%, up to 50%, which sounds insane, but it's true, up to 50% of your outbound. And you can definitely squander all of your profit if you don't have a purposeful return strategy that takes that into an account.
That's such good advice. And I'm excited to dive a little bit more into that in a minute. But first, I'm wondering if we can talk a little bit about some considerations for customers changing business model a little bit. So what do smaller companies that are adding direct to consumer online sales to their existing wholesale business model need to think about? And then the other side of that, while you're at it, for folks who are looking at direct to consumer online sales, but need to understand more about moving into wholesale, what are some considerations there?
So I'd say the biggest one is they are fundamentally different. So don't assume just because you do one that you can just force the other one through your existing process. They are fundamentally different, and you need to treat them differently, scope them differently, approach them differently, execute them differently. And so I'd say that's a excuse me. The biggest part of it is to make sure that you're kind of looking at them for what they are. That can influence your transportation and logistics strategy. So like if I might fulfill my own orders if they are going to a retail channel, because I can ship them on a pallet or a less than truckload shipment, and you might have plenty of time to build that order. You could even pre-build the order, whereas with a direct to consumer shipment, like the clock starts when that order has been placed. And so it's a very, very different model when you're in those two. So maybe you outsource one, maybe you don't the other. How you treat customer service, very, very different. Kind of the expectations that your customers will expect from a retail channel versus a consumer channel. The customer service expectations will be very different. How you manage returns, very different. In a wholesale channel, tidbit here, you can negotiate returns out of your contract. You might have to have a lower price point for when you sell, the initial good, but you can negotiate returns out of it so that you don't have to worry about the returns. All things you can kind of think about when you do that. Salespeople, let's be honest, the salespeople that sell direct to consumer versus the salespeople that would be direct to consumer, or the salespeople for a retail channel versus the marketing channel that you would use for direct to consumer, very, very different skill sets, different competencies. And then even if you do use, let's say, a marketplace, a lot of people say, a marketplace brings lots of eyeballs. True, but you still have to advertise or find a way to kind of get in the buy button or buy box, whatever you want to call it, on a marketplace. So it's different sales or different marketing, but you still have to do it.
Those are all such great points. And that actually leads me perfectly to my next question, which is about marketplaces. Can you talk a little bit about some pros and some cons of selling on those online marketplaces like Amazon, like Etsy or eBay? Can we talk a little bit about those?
Yeah, absolutely. So I spend a lot of time paying attention to marketplaces, probably way more than I should. But I just love it, like a geek up on e-commerce and returns, by the way. And so paying attention to the marketplaces and what they're good at and what they might not be good at. One of the things that I have seen from many merchants is they have a very, very, very purposeful sales strategy. So what they might do is they might have their entire kind of product catalog on their own website, where they're building that kind of repeat customer, the best customer, if you will. They're coming to their website, they bought into the brand, all those kind of things. And they might use a marketplace for, maybe only the most popular thing, or maybe only the least popular things, or maybe the last season's product or returns. So a lot of people have this like really, really purposeful channel strategy where they leverage, selling directly versus selling through a marketplace. I think understand the competition on each is also super important. Let's be honest, what you would normally go to, on an Amazon versus an Etsy might be very, very different. And so all channels, all marketplaces are not created the same. I will say a lot of small businesses do start on a marketplace before they launch their own direct-to-consumer channel. Here's the tip. Make sure you're locking down all of the potential kind of URLs related to your brand and your company, even if you don't plan on launching in the near term, so that you always know that that is kind of in your back pocket and you can always execute that strategy. It does pain you because you end up paying like a monthly fee or an annual fee. I'm doing it right now with 2 brands of myself that I just like have in my back pocket, and when if I ever execute, they're right there for me.
That is a really good tip, something that people might not think of if they are going to definitely start on Etsy and grow that as much as they want, but they need the opportunity to have that domain in the future.
Another thing just to highlight, so I have a finance background. So before I did what I do now with FedEx, I was a finance guy, and understanding kind of not just, what are my sales by channel, but my profitability by channel, my actual profitability by channel after all commissions, out of all advertising, all of that kind of stuff, really understanding the profitability of your channels. That is something that shocks me, how often I engage with a small merchant and they're growing all their channels, but they don't have great visibility to the profitability of each channel. And so I really encourage you to make sure you're also looking at the profitability of your channels.
That's a great point. Thank you. All right, now I want to turn to a question that our team gets all the time from small business owners, especially as they're just getting into e-commerce. Do you think that all e-commerce businesses need to offer free shipping?
So repeat after me. Free shipping isn't free. So no, like obviously I know people call it free shipping. I call it subsidized shipping because that's what it is. Maybe it's my finance background. I look at the kind of total cost, and to me, that's just essentially it's a marketing promotion. So subsidized shipping. So let me hit your actual question. Generally speaking, I do think you should offer a very, very subsidized shipping solution for a consumer. Our research has shown that generally speaking, consumers want free shipping, and they'll almost tolerate kind of very, very different kind of elongated transit expectation as long as they get free. And yes, you do need a fast option, but you should pay for it. So I would encourage people to have, the cheapest option possible that has, some variability to it, and then have a premium option where you can pay up and have a kind of a specific kind of click to door experience is really important. Vast majority of the market, by the way, is on the free side or on the lowest cost possible. If you're anything like me, you get packages, all throughout the week, and a lot of them end up on my dining room table, and they don't get opened for days. And so, like, did I need it in a day, or need it, in 2 days, or did I need it same day? Absolutely not. Almost all of it kind of waits until Saturday Saturday where we open packages, which kind of sounds weird. So keep that in mind. Just what's the consumer behavior? Who are you competing with? What are you selling? What are the expectations of the audience? You know, really kind of gets to it. Disclaimer, this is not an advertising endorsement, anything like that. This shirt is a Banana Republic shirt. And you know where you can't buy a Banana Republic shirt? Anywhere else but Banana Republic if you want a new one. And so when I think about like, what is the checkout experience? What is the shipping experience? It's unique to the product and the audience and the customer. And so I just really encourage you, kind of think about who you're selling to. What do they value? And then how can you kind of leverage that? If you have a store, absolutely offer a pickup in store option. Again, it kind of goes to consumers will take on some of the effort if they can get free. And so if they're driving by your store, if it happens to be a local store, they totally will pop in, and that gives you an opportunity to kind of share with them your brand, your message, have experience to your team. And so I'd encourage that. And then the last one, this is more of a kind of a shipping centric thing. Shipping to residents for anybody, it's a less dense shipment. You end up driving more between each residential stop than you do a commercial stop. And so by nature, residential delivery is more expensive than commercial. So if you have a way to ship to a commercial address, that's a good guy. And so, you know, one of the things that we offer at FedEx is called Hold at Location. There's a lot of solutions out there in the market, but have it delivered to a commercial location like a FedEx office or Walgreens, those kinds of things. And you save that residential surcharge. So that's one of those things that, you know, it doesn't get advertised a whole lot, but that's one of the ways you can offer free shipping or your most subsidized shipping option.
Yeah, those are all great, such creative ways to think about it. And I think that's really helpful. Thank you. All right, now we're going to switch over to your favorite topic, returns. So I have a couple questions about returns. The first is, why do online sellers need to think about the return experience up front?
They can be costly. You know, let's be honest, a lot of e-commerce margins are very slim margins. A lot of people lose money in e-commerce, quite honestly. And so the last thing you want to do is to lose your entire profit from a costly returns experience or process. That said, a lot of people don't enter the e-commerce space because they want to like perfect their returns experience, and so sometimes it becomes an afterthought. It's the less sexy part of e-commerce or just retail in general. And so it becomes just something people don't pay attention to, and they end up losing a decent amount of cost or money. All right, here's a paradigm shift for you. For small businesses, don't think of returns as just this processing cost. Think of it as a marketing expense. What I mean by that is, when you're out trying to sell your product and someone has never heard of you, a lot of times the returns process ends up influencing the cart conversion. So let me break it down. Generally speaking, the number one reason why a consumer will abandon a shopping cart is because of the cost of the product. Okay, that's obvious. A lot of times it's number two or number three, the returns policy is the second or third most popular reason why someone abandons the cart. If you're a small business that doesn't have that brand that people know, giving the consumer trust in your brand by offering a returns policy that essentially de-risks the transaction for them, that's a marketing expense. And so kind of view it as we're leaning into it. We're taking the risk off the table, and we do that through returns.
That's really smart. That's a great way to think about it. You're right. All right. So once they've thought through this process, what should business owners think about in terms of strategies to reduce those returns in the first place?
Yeah, so it sounds kind of funny, like, hey FedEx, what would you do to reduce returns, which is reducing a package? But here's the answer. Use really good descriptions. Make sure that you're using really good, understandable descriptions in, online to make sure that people understand exactly what your product is, you know, how it can be used, if there's any exclusions, just give them as much information as possible in the product description itself. Second, photos. So make sure that you're using kind of actual photos of products, make sure you have the right light, kind of one of the biggest reasons apparel kind of skews towards e-commerce. One of the biggest reasons on apparel is color. And so like, hey, it didn't look red, it looked, more brownish or whatever it is. So make sure you've got the right lighting. Use normal models on your clothes. So as a dad of a 3-year-old, I have yet to see many dad bod models online, but you got to make sure that you're using things that people kind of look like and they can say, I can picture myself wearing that, or not. Customer testimonials. So allowing actual customers to give feedback. And I can't tell you how many times, I've looked at the feedback and it's like, this shirt runs tight, or it's loose, it's short, all of those kind of things that don't really come across in, small, medium, large. Shoes, especially, shoes is actually the highest return category most of the time, because people buy multiple sizes because they don't have faith that they're going to fit, because this runs narrow, it runs wide, and all of those kind of nuances. But then last thing, make sure you're also capturing why people are returning product. So that, hey, like if it's a bad description, fix it. If it's bad lighting, fix it. If it's, the model doesn't look like the normal person, fix it. It could be a product defect as well. It needs to influence your manufacturing, your product design, all those kinds of things to make sure that you're not, just increasing the issues that you have. That said, a lot of times people have a returns process or returns policy that says, hey, if it's a defect, it's free, but if it's, customer choice, you have to pay for shipping. Okay, they're always going to say it's a product defect. So if you have an incentive policy that encourages less than truthful behavior, you're not going to get good returns information if you capture it that way.
That's a really good point. All right, thank you. All right, so the next thing I want to talk about a little bit is the logistics piece of this whole conversation about shipping and logistics. So what are some ways that small business owners can ensure that their transportation and logistics spending is really efficient when they've got tight budgets?
Yeah, so you really need to make sure you're having a very open conversation with your shipping friends, to make sure that, you're being kind of transparent about your business, what you're shipping, how you're shipping it, what drives your shipping. So I just encourage you to be very, very open. And don't just assume that they only need to have the following 3 pieces of information. I would say, try to build a relationship and share as much as you can about your business with them. Number 2, I'd encourage you to talk to a lot of people. Yes, talk to your FedEx rep, talk to other reps, and understand what you're shipping, how you're shipping it. Some of them might have a different kind of advantage based on what you're shipping, how you're shipping it, and the characteristics of what you do. I already mentioned before, FedEx, we have hold at location, so you can save on the residential surcharge if you have it shipped to a FedEx office or Walgreens, and we'll notify the consumer like, hey, it's ready for pickup. There are other solutions out there like that. Do promotions. You can do promotions to encourage those opportunities. So, free shipping for this, free shipping if it's picked up in our store, some of those kind of things. If you don't have a whole lot of shipments, so like, let's say you have a package a day. Okay, if you have a package a day, you probably don't need 3 carriers coming by your business, trying to pick up, knowing that, two of them are not going to have a package that day. So try to, optimize your spend with one carrier, leverage the pickup efficiently. Again, back to what costs them money and can you avoid it? One of the things I have seen small businesses do is they will drop off their packages kind of out of FedEx office or Walgreens or whatever to save on the pickup charge. That's something that a lot of smaller businesses do, especially if they don't have consistent volume every single day. It's just inefficient, and so that's a way to kind of save money. Make sure you have an upgrade option for a paid option for people that want a faster shipping. Also, make sure that you're comparing apples to oranges. Actually, don't compare apples to oranges. Make sure you're comparing apples to apples. So you might say, like, what is my cheapest option to get it there on a Monday? Well, some carriers like FedEx Home Delivery delivers every day of the week. And so are you comparing business days to calendar days? And so making sure that you're really kind of looking through that, like, hey, this option is cheaper, or it might even be more expensive and gets there later based on that kind of dynamic. So I'd say make sure you're paying attention to those kinds of things and surcharges and those. If you're anything like me, there's a big difference between getting something on a Saturday or Sunday or a Monday. Because like I said before, if I got it delivered on Monday, chances are I'm not going to look at it until the next Saturday. So getting Saturday and Sunday delivery, I know I'm a shipping geek. That's a big deal. Getting stuff delivered on the weekends for me.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much. And I think the next thing that's a little bit related, once you get your transportation and your logistics set up, keeping track of all of that, I think can be really challenging. We've certainly seen that with the small business owners we work with, but there are lots of tools to help with that. And so I'm wondering if you can talk a little bit about what types of technologies small business owners who are trying to sell online should really focus on for these processes.
Okay, so that's like a master class or series of classes in itself. So let me keep this one a little on a higher level. I guess two things I would encourage you there. Look on FedEx.com. We have something called the Small Business Grant Award Winners, and they will give recommendations about technologies that have worked for them. Like, let's be honest, these are not technologies I use in my job. Talk to people who actually use these technologies, which kind of goes to the second piece, which is network with other companies that are similar to your company in some way. Same size, same geography. I guess sometimes, competitors will even do that. Kind of companies that have a similar IT bench, because sometimes a lot of these technologies, some are plug and play and some of them require a deep technical background. So kind of find another company that kind of looks and feels like your company has the same abilities, and find out what they've done and who they've evaluated. I'd say is a big one. The other thing is, if the technology isn't working for you, as costly and as time intensive as it is, consider making a change. The right technology should be kind of a productivity and a game changer boost for you. Don't feel like you're beholden to your technology if it's not working for you.
Yeah, that's definitely good advice. It's supposed to help. It's not supposed to make things more complicated.
Yes.
All right. Well, thank you so much for sharing all of this wisdom. I think it's so important, like we were just saying, to have these conversations to answer some of these questions. Do you have any final words of advice you'd like to share?
I mean, I wish I were as courageous and brave and intelligent as all of y'all. So I would just say, keep learning, keep doing it, keep exploring. The big thing is just, keep a great sounding board around you, including those that will tell you the stuff that you don't want to hear. I think it's really important for us to kind of learn and develop. Let's be honest, small businesses and entrepreneurs are the lifeblood of our economy and of our nation. And it's because of all of you guys that we're going to be kind of in a better place. So congratulations and best of luck.
Thank you so much, Ryan. This has been such a great conversation. I really appreciate you making the time and joining us today.
Thank you.
All right. I hope you all enjoyed that conversation. I feel like Ryan shared so many great insights, and we appreciate so much Ryan and his team for making that possible for us today. And so now I am going to bring in our two live speakers for the interactive portion of today's seminar. So we've got two fantastic entrepreneur experts who are going to share their insights with the group. First, I am thrilled to introduce Lauren Bercier of Something Borrowed Blooms. Lauren, would you mind sharing a little bit about yourself and your business?
Yeah, definitely. Hi, everybody. I'm Lauren. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Something Borrowed Blooms. We specialize in rent and return wedding flowers. So we use premium silk flowers to build out collections and rent them to couples all over the US and Canada. We are changing the way modern couples plan and pay for their wedding flowers by offering a more convenient, sustainable, and affordable option.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being here, Lauren.
Yeah.
And we're also honored to have David Zamarin with us of DetraPel. He's joining us today. So David, do you mind introducing yourself?
Absolutely. Thanks, Meredith. My name is David Zamarin. I run a company called DetraPel. We make all different types of chemical protective coatings, and we have a consumer side of the business as well as an industrial side of the business. But from the consumer perspective, you can think of, let's say, Scotchgard or Crep Protect if you're younger, or one of these stain repellent coatings that you apply to, let's say, your shoes or your clothes. We make the same thing, except we make a cancer-free version of it. That's pretty much the basics of it. There's a lot more that goes into it, but I started the company when I was 15 years old, and I've been running it for a little over 8 years now.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, David and Lauren, for both of you for being with us today. I'm excited to jump into this conversation. You all have such different businesses and bring really complementary insights and experience for this discussion. So we'll dive into our first question. What experience do you all have shipping products directly within your business? So either you doing the shipping or you have staff managing your shipping as opposed to outsourcing. What are some pros and cons based on your experience of doing your shipping in-house? We'll start with Lauren and then we'll go to David.
Yeah, so it's funny when Ryan was talking through, like the different phases of shipping, it made me really reflect on our early days. We started the company about 6 years ago. And when our volumes were low and inconsistent, there were many months that I would pack the wedding flowers at my house, load up my 2 babies at the time in the car and drive them off to FedEx and drop them off. Exactly for the reasons he was stating. We were trying to be really efficient with our budget, saving money, so we didn't want to spend anything extra on pickup services and fees like that. So that's really how we started. That's where my experience with shipping began. And then fast forward to today, we have 28 women on staff, and we run, 3 to 4 FedEx pickups a day, shipping out, thousands of parcels a month, hundreds and hundreds a week. So for me, it's been really a positive experience having all that done in-house. We like to really be involved and control it. So that's like, the experience is it's fun to see the evolution of like how you start when you're just starting out and then where you can actually, grow to.
That's great. Thanks. And David, what about you?
Yeah, I think that's a great question, and Lauren kind of hit the nail on the head, as did Ryan. When you're a small business, you kind of go through the whole gambit. When you start in the very beginning, and for me, when I was 15, I was definitely shipping everything out by myself. And then as you grow, you kind of go through the gamut and realize that your time is just better used elsewhere. But in the beginning, you need to do that, and you need to know and understand all the processes in your business to understand where your inefficiencies are and where hiring someone or where using a 3PL may be useful. And so in our scenario, we did use a 3PL for a very brief, short period of time. But for the most part, we've always kept it in-house. And for us, a part of our production staff is trained to ship. And I know one of the things that we'll be talking about later today, but I'll hint on it now, is having really good automation tools and using the proper technology to be able to kind of automate everything so that there's very little room for mistakes. That's kind of key for shipping.
All right. Thank you. Okay, so you just hinted at it, David, about using kind of an outsource or going elsewhere to help with shipping. So whether that's drop shipping or using a 3PL, third-party logistics outsourcing company, can we dive a little deeper on what are kind of the pros and cons? You mentioned you did it for a short time, and why maybe wasn't it not the right thing for your company?
Yeah, I mean, I think everything depends on the business that you're running. In our case, we're very tech heavy on the R&D front. So we make all of our own coatings, and we specialize in creating a really unique product that's very uncommon to the market, and so does Lauren, right? So I think in both our scenarios, I think what we end up having to do is we want to be able to actually control that process and see the quality of our shipment, the quality of our goods, and what our customers' experience is like based on the shipment. The reality is that shipping is a very tight margin business. So if you're going to go to a 3PL, for example, or if you're going to drop ship, you don't actually know what that company that you're hiring to ship the products is going to do, and they're going to have to cut costs. So for example, some of you may have seen DetraPel before, because we are a former Shark Tank company. And so when we were on Shark Tank in 2018, we ended up effectively hiring a firm that was right next door to us, actually, in our facility, to do the last mile delivery, or to do pretty much the entire shipping. But where they cut costs was they used a combination of, let's say, USPS or FedEx plus a last mile delivery service that was local to areas. And that went from a 2 to 3 shipping day period to a 2 to 3 week shipping period for customers. So a customer who's reading on the website that the shipment should only take, let's say, a couple of days, ended up seeing it, 2 weeks later, and their tracking numbers are not working, and the experience is just not there. And once you start to realize a lot of these hurdles occur, it becomes evidently more important to actually bring a lot of these things in-house.
Got it. That makes a lot of sense. And Lauren, I know you all have made decisions not to do this. You want to add anything on that front?
Yeah, I mean, to David's point, like he just mentioned, so obviously our goods and that we provide are so specialized, so they require really skilled employees that can build up these products, and without that hands-on attention, we wouldn't be able to provide the quality of the products that we do today. So it's always been no question that we keep that all in-house. And then to the shipping point, our customers are looking for these products to arrive obviously before their wedding date. So this is mission critical. We can't have something arrive a week late and say, oh, sorry. So everything has to be really controlled, and we have automations, like David said, in place to ensure that all shipments are arriving 3 days before the event date. And we do that by really using FedEx API, building it in on the back end of our custom platform to be able to really control all of that. So for those reasons, it doesn't make sense for us to do any outsourcing. Now, as we're looking at potential expansions from the business, if we we're considering maybe a home line or some retail components that are more traditional retail, then that might warrant a discussion about a drop shipping or a 3PL option. But where we are today, we haven't explored those.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense for each of your businesses, even though they're really different. The uniqueness of the product and the time sensitivity and the customer experience, that makes a lot of sense. All right. So the next question I want to move to has to do with all of these different carriers or logistics partners that you might be working with to get things from your warehouse to your customer. So do you all have any pointers on managing the relationship with a shipping or logistics company or a carrier? Let's start with David, and then we'll go to Lauren.
Yeah, I'm super passionate about this, just because this is the whole reason why we're with FedEx. For us, FedEx, especially for anything under a pound, is brutally expensive. So under a pound, I'll be honest, we don't use FedEx, but anything over a pound we do that is an industrial size that uses truckloads. And the reason why we're so committed to FedEx, even though they're still actually the most expensive out of the other 3 major carriers that we have available to us, is because of the service. I don't think there's anything that can take away that interpersonal relationship that you need with a logistics partner, because the reality is that you have customers to answer to. And if shipping isn't on point, those customers are blaming you and you're stuck with everything. Whereas if you have a good partner like FedEx, you can at least shift a little bit of the blame and say, hey, let's work this out and figure out how we can stop this from happening next time or the next 3 times. And what do we need to do together to be able to solve these problems? And I think that FedEx is unique in that manner because they're the only ones that have on-field reps that actually come out and speak to you and build plans according to your business. Because we've been with UPS and USPS and everyone else in between, DHL, but there's no one out there that's actually going to come to your facility, look at your business, get the actual tour, and realize, okay, this is where we can help them, and this is where we aren't going to be so much of help. And how do we blend that together to offer the best service to the client, which in this case is us.
Yeah, that's great. A true logistical partner, actually being strategic with you. That makes a lot of sense. Lauren, anything to add about those relationships that are so important?
Yeah, I would say what I found to be really beneficial is to take the time to, like David's saying, create that relationship with your FedEx rep, but also to really lay out your business goals for them, and on a pretty consistent basis. Maybe it's yearly or, a quarterly, and just kind of lay out like what you're working on, what your goals are, so that the FedEx, person you're working with has that in mind. And it also helps to kind of lay out a roadmap for them and kind of show you like, okay, in 6 months, we expect to be at this volume. How can our rates be negotiated if we hit this benchmark? And then it kind of helps them like plan for that and give some, incentives for us to kind of keep growing. Beyond that, they're super helpful in things outside of shipping. So we've had consultants come in as we're expanding our warehouse to come in and do like a warehouse audit and give us pointers about like, efficiencies in the warehouse and the layout and things like that. So like to David's point, like really establishing a relationship with your FedEx rep and like maintaining that, they'll give as much as you do. So if you can just get in front of them and then just like really keep that communication open, I think, you'll be surprised at how much you can get from them.
Yeah, that's such a great point. I never thought about that before around goal setting together and kind of setting some benchmarks into the future. That's a really interesting way to kind of maximize that relationship. That's awesome. Okay, cool. All right. So another question for the two of you has to do, I want to talk about Ryan's favorite topic, which is returns, because each of you have a really unique take on returns because of your business models. So would love to hear how you all kind of navigate understanding and perfecting your returns process within the company, but then also communicating that back to customers. And Lauren, would love to start with you because returns is part of the game, right?
Yeah, returns has been built into our business model since day one. And that expectation for the customer is really clear. Our whole model is built off of rent and return. And I would say thanks and hugely in part to Rent the Runway, our customers are really familiar with this concept now. But the returns process is, communicated clearly throughout the entire process for our customers. So there really isn't much question about what's required on their part. We go through, extra lengths to make sure customers are just like very aware. So they're getting text messages and emails and, all the things to remind them right before the return is due. Beyond that, when they receive their package, that experience the experience itself is like really lovely, but it also is very informative. So they have a packet of information. It has a return checklist with all the items that are required to be returned, in addition to their printed FedEx return labels. So it clearly says, put these labels on your boxes now so they're not misplaced. Simply return all the items back into their original packaging and return to FedEx on the following business day. And so it really takes all the guesswork out of it. And I think that's really important. And we also, promote or highlight the FedEx app service so that our customers can kind of be in more control of their shipments and know that they can schedule a pickup or they can have it held at a holdout location if that's something they want to do. So just really being, clear and direct with the communication about how the returns work and what the expectations are, really has been a streamlined way to make that all run really smoothly.
That's great. And kind of giving folks the tools, making sure they have everything they need to do this successfully, I think is really smart. Awesome. Yeah. All right, David, what about you? How do you all think about returns at DetraPel?
Yeah, I mean, I love how what Lauren said. I mean, we never built it into our business model from day one because, when you're a product-based business that isn't, I guess, building in the return policy, kind of like what Ryan said, it can be a blessing in a disguise, a blessing in disguise, or something that's incredibly detrimental to your business. And when we first started, because of the ideology that the product is perfect, it works amazing, it's got to do this and that, and every customer's going to love it, we didn't build an effective return policy. I'm talking like 6-7 years ago. Eventually, over time, we realized that the true value in an order is actually the customer, especially if they're going to return. And I know maybe Lauren's business is slightly different, because hopefully people don't necessarily get married twice. But nonetheless, they might be referring others and friends. In our business, we have a little bit of a recurring model where people are always going to be protecting their things or cleaning things with our stain removers or whatever. So there is a little bit of that expectation that if you build an amazing customer experience and you get the loyalty of the customer for life or for half a life, then it's worth it. And having a clear and convicting return policy that it makes the customer comfortable with anything if anything goes wrong, that's really what builds that rapport with the customer and eventually gets you referral business and so on and so forth. So in my mind, I think in the 21st century, especially because of Amazon, everyone's expectations with returns are ridiculous. But the critical component to that is that if you do right by the customer, that customer experience is remembered, and you can build a customer for life because of that. And to us, the lifetime value of a customer is far worth it, far worth having a very clear and concise return policy that makes it super easy for the customer to return for any reason.
Yeah, that's such a great point around cultivating trust and keeping somebody kind of for the long game. It's not just about that one transaction.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. So thank you so much. So now I'm excited to open up this conversation to the rest of our group. So we'll take some questions from the chat, and we also got some questions submitted ahead of time that we'll start with. So if you haven't already, please do type questions into the chat box for Lauren and for David. So we'll get started with some of those questions. We had a lot of interest in figuring out how to streamline some logistical processes. So many folks are wondering if they're doing their shipping in-house, as both of you are, if they should set aside a specific day, maybe one day a week or one day a month, depending on their volume, for all of their fulfillment, packing, shipping, or if they should be packaging up orders as they come in, kind of how to get organized around that. And I know there's not a one size fits all answer, but what advice would you have for somebody who's trying to think through how to create that process? Like, are there certain signs they should be looking for, or how do they get that organized? Lauren, we can start with you on this one.
Yeah, I would say it's definitely, like you said, not a one size fit all, but I would say I would probably base that decision on your customers' expectations. So if you're, shipping out goods that customers expect to receive pretty quickly, or they expect to see the shipment move immediately, then I would do it on a daily basis. Whereas if you're shipping out goods that, like, for my instance, like they're more date specific, or for they're like a future event, then you could kind of batch them, which is how we used to do it when we first started. Like, we would batch all the orders, all the weddings for the following week on, the week prior, and we would ship everything out on a certain day of the week. But I think it really just depends on your customer expectations and meeting those. And so every decision that you make is pretty much like, what does the customer want? And, always use that as your guiding light.
That's great. David, anything to add on this?
No, I think Lauren hit the nail on the head. You just got to focus on the customer and really understand what their needs are, and that'll kind of guide your answers.
Yeah. All right. Great. So next we have a question about technology, and Ryan spoke a little bit about this, and we talked about this. Both of you have some automation in your processes now. I know it can be really hard to, make a specific recommendation, especially on, a certain brand or certain tool. So no need to vouch for something unless you just really want to recommend it. But that being said, what should somebody be thinking about? Can you share some ideas about what folks should be looking for in a tool, or how to kind of embrace technology into this process? David, why don't you start?
Yeah, I'd say, the point of technology, and this is true for any piece of tech that you integrate to your business, is there's got to be a point for it. There's got to be something that it does that makes your process more efficient. If you're spending more time, working the app or working the software, the API connections and integrations, if that takes more time out of your day to manage that on a daily basis, then that's probably a problem that you should address. In our scenario, we use tech across multiple different variables in the business, particularly for shipping and logistics. We use ShipStation, and we've tried others, but we like ShipStation for a variety of reasons. It integrates pretty much everything that we want all in one platform, and then obviously on the back end is integrated to our website. So for us, what we kind of care about is we want the shipping process to be seamless for the customer, for them to get a ton of information when they place an order and then are waiting for the order. And then in addition to that, we really want customers to be able to kind of have a very streamlined process where if they want to know where their order is or how their order is coming and there are any issues, that it's all taken care of. And then on the back end, besides the customer, on the back end, the most important thing for us is making sure that the automation rules exist and that they're super efficient. Because for us, if you're getting, especially because we have a low priced item, I think the lowest cost item that we have on our site is like $7, and I might be wrong about that, but I definitely know for sure that it's 15. So in a scenario like that, or with Amazon, for example, you need to be able to kind of make the shipping process efficient when you have many orders coming in. And so we're in a unique position because we have that opportunity. But even prior to having a ton of orders on a daily basis, I'd say when we were below 50 orders a day, that was still more manageable in going into every single order and then selecting the service or having a couple of presets and selecting them based on that. But once you really go over that number, it starts taxing a lot of your time. And obviously you have to either pay for someone to do it or do it yourself. And in our scenario where when we had staff, and when we noticed that staff was either spending a ton of time or spending a lot of resources to try to get something done within a day's worth of time, we realized that we should really automate things. And so we spoke to ShipStation and we saw that they had a bunch of automation tools that we weren't familiar with, which now is fully integrated to their software. We've been with ShipStation for a few years when they first started. So it was a lot harder to create automations in the past. Now it's super easy and straightforward. And for us, all we did was we pretty much took a look at every single scenario. If someone ordered from the West Coast or from the Mid Coast, or Midwest or East Coast, whether it's first class, and depending on the weight and depending on the shipping regions and all those things, different rules apply. And if it's something a little bit more complicated, it can raise a flag and ask for a user to review it. So that is part of the training of our staff. But pretty much the software itself takes care of all the orders. So once you have all the automation set, which can take a couple of days to set up, but in this scenario, if the software takes a ton of time off your plate afterward, it's super useful. And so for us, that happened to be ShipStation for shipping and logistics, because it can do so many different things and cross integrate not only FedEx, but also, and it's your specific FedEx account, but also, all your other accounts, different marketplaces. If you're on Amazon versus your website or something else, it'll integrate that as well. So that's key for us.
Yeah, that's great. Everything in one place. It's worth the upfront effort to get it kind of all together. And
the price. ShipStation's not the cheapest, not the most expensive either, but they're certainly worth it.
Okay, got it. Lauren, what about you? How have you all integrated technology? Any tips for our audience?
Yeah, so it's definitely been an evolution, like a lot of other things. So when we first started, we had, like a site on GoDaddy that I made, and I am not a tech person. And you had to like submit a form to get a quote. And there was a lot of back and forth from the customer experience side. So we knew quickly that we had to get to something that was more automated and user-friendly. And so our first jump was to Shopify. And I have nothing but really great things to say about Shopify. We were on Shopify for quite a few years, but our particular needs started to outgrow what Shopify could offer, especially our more specialized things with the rent and return model. And so kind of to Ryan's point, how it seems like you're like adding an app, trying this, plugging it in, and like nothing was quite right. So once we outgrew Shopify, we saw the need to build a custom platform. And so we really developed all of our software, which was a huge undertaking, but I think really worth it because it's allowed us to scale at, to continue to grow and scale at the pace that we have, and like is really like the infrastructure for our future growth as well. But so one thing when we're like, you know, vetting what to use for the new site, it was like something that I learned was about like an open source platform to make sure that we could integrate FedEx API and others on the back end to make sure that all that automation that FedEx provides, like just out of the, you know, like you can just go to get FedEx API, plug it into your back end. And that's really what fuels or powers all of our shipping, our schedule, date specific things, our inventory tracking, the tracking numbers that get assigned to the customers when an order is fulfilled. And so that's really what powers all of that. So just having a platform that was open so that you could use those APIs was really important and something to look for.
Yeah, that's such a great point. That's something that people might not think of when they first kind of start down this journey. So thanks for pointing that out. All right, a couple more questions here in our last 10, 15 minutes or so. So a lot of the folks in our audience have products that are on the heavier side. So maybe like a jam or a sauce in a glass bottle or something that's packs a punch. It's small but heavy. And then the opposite side of that might be something that's spatially large but doesn't weigh a ton. And so I know those aren't necessarily exactly like both of your products, or every product is different, but do you have any recommendations for entrepreneurs who are trying to sort out their weight, their dimensional weight, all these kind of things, and might need to communicate a higher shipping cost to a customer because of the specifics of the product? So David, we'll start with you on this because you have a little bit of a heavier product, right?
I think mine's actually lighter than Lauren's, but I might be wrong. But
okay.
I know Lauren has to do with dimensional weight. I have both, right? I have everything from under a pound, which is the majority of our package. In fact, if you take a single one of our bottles, it'll be under a pound significantly. And then I think even 2 bottles is under a pound. But as soon as you go over that, it is over a pound. And at that point, that's when shipping becomes a little bit more expensive, no matter what you do. And then obviously we have things like gallon sizes that we sell quite often, and those are all going to be around 10 pounds. And then obviously our industrial side of the business is pallets. So we're all over the place in terms of what sizes we have and what weights. The thing is with weights and being able to understand kind of where your value add is can dictate what your pricing structure is. So for example, if you're selling like a jam that is super, it's in a glass jar and it's got a very unique taste to it, and you've got a lot of very loyal customers, you can start to understand and figure out what makes sense for you, whether it's going to be a 3PL or doing it in-house, and maybe setting up different types of packages or different types of, I guess, containers for your jams to see if you can optimize shipping, if shipping is a big concern to you, because shipping prices are going up. And it really depends, because when you have a low value item, like in our case, the challenge then becomes, how do you make the margin for shipping product when someone buys 1 bottle and shipping is like $9, right? Because you have the package itself, the product, and the label, and that doesn't even include any overhead costs to actually have someone package it for you if you're paying someone to do it. And so the one key thing that I think is important for any entrepreneur or any small business to understand is what those strings are for you. Where can you create the margin, or where can you kind of effectively build better returns or better margins for yourself. And for us, for example, one of the things that we looked at a little while ago when we decided to go and offer free shipping, I put that in quotes because of what Ryan said, because he's right. What we ended up doing is we made a free shipping trigger at a certain dollar amount. So after $35, we'll offer free shipping. And then for Amazon is a good example where we don't have the ability to do that, because everything on Amazon is going to be either Prime, or if it's not Prime, you're just going to get not as much volume. And so for us, it's all about customer experience there. We want to match expectations. And so for Amazon, we offer free shipping around the board for 1 bottle or for multiple bottles. But a key strategy for some companies is creating bundle SKUs on Amazon so that you get a higher order value and you can offset shipping costs because of that. Or for example, with Amazon, in our case, we have a custom designed box, which is actually made by FedEx, FedEx office. But we ended up having like a very beautifully designed custom box that you can put different configurations of bottles in, whether it's 1, 2, 3, or 4, and it's very well thought out. But the cost of the package, especially now, is increasing, and it's not cheap. So it's not feasible to do that package plus the postage and the Amazon seller fees on Amazon and still make a decent margin. So what we do for Amazon specifically, if it's a 1 bottle order or under a pound, we will do it in a padded envelope as opposed to, you know, a traditional kind of scenario where we're giving a box on our website.
Got it. Okay. And Lauren, what about you? How do you think about, I think dimensional weight is the big issue for you, right?
Yeah, so we're always fighting against the dimensional weight because our products, like the actual size of the box always is larger than the actual weight. So, and FedEx goes off of whichever is greater. So we always use dimensional weight as a negotiating factor whenever we're renewing our FedEx, rates. And you can negotiate that based on your volume. So as your volume increases, you can look at your dimensional weight and you can change it down so that way you're getting a better price overall, which is something we're always looking at. So that's something we do. And shoot, I had something I wanted to say and I forgot what it was. Oh, I think really though, the shipping, like Ryan's saying, is like, it really comes down to a marketing tactic. I think it's, probably easier to raise your cost of your price of the jam by, let's say, $2 and reduce your shipping costs than it is to try to explain why shipping is so expensive. And so that's something that, we've kind of thought about too. We actually put caps in place on all of our shipments right now so that the customers aren't charged more than a certain dollar amount or a certain percentage of their subtotal of their order, whichever is greater. And there are, lots of shipments that exceed that by tenfold, but from like a scaling point of view, it just makes sense to keep that shipping cost low so that the customer conversion rate remains healthy. Our goal is to offer free shipping, but as to Ryan's point, it's really going to be a subsidized shipping. It's when we'll get to a point where our volume and our discounts can help offset our shipping costs to where it can make sense and we can, pass those savings on to the customer.
Mm-hmm. No,
but yeah, I think it's all a marketing tactic.
Yeah, it's all in how you communicate about it and where you still find a way to make that margin for sure. Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. Just a couple more questions that we've had coming in. So this is an interesting one. How do you estimate shipping time? Does the carrier kind of do that for you, or are you able to do that as the business owner to communicate that to the customer?
Yeah, so the carrier does that for you. If you are linked into FedEx Ship Manager, you can put in the exact zip code that you're going to be shipping to, and it'll give you an exact transit time based on the transit type, and it'll show you all of them. So it'll show you that you could have, a 3-day option, a 2-day option, an overnight option, the ground that might be 4 to 5 days, whatever it would be. And so you can kind of weigh out your, cost benefit there. But then they also have a ground or a home delivery map on the FedEx site. If you search for it, and it's a downloadable map based on where you're shipping from, and it'll show you the entire US, and it gives you a color coded zone of which states you can hit and how many days it would take to get there. So definitely go to the FedEx site. They have a lot of resources there that you can scan through to see what the transit types are.
Okay. Yeah, that's so helpful. It's basically, it sounds like it's very similar to the customer experience. When I am shopping online and I put in my zip code and then it says these are the 5 ways to ship. That's essentially what the seller, the small business owner, is seeing as well, and kind of calculating that way.
Exactly.
That's cool. And with the zones, I've heard about the zones before as a way for business owners to decide how far they want to ship. So maybe initially they only ship to 2 zones before they are able to ship nationally, just to kind of control the costs. Did either of you do that, or did you go national kind of from the jump?
Yeah, we went national. It didn't make sense for us to go local.
Okay.
And similar to any platform online, I just wanted to add, any platform like ShipStation or anything else will also estimate shipping times on your behalf. So that's a pretty standard feature in, I think, every e-commerce store.
Okay. All right. Good to know. We don't have to calculate it on our own. We've got tools to help us with that.
Yeah.
That's good. Awesome. All right. Well, we only have 5 minutes left. And so I want to make sure that everybody who's joined us has an opportunity to kind of take in all of these insights, kind of soak this in, and set some next steps for themselves, some kind of action items. What are we going to do next? So I'm going to put a couple questions in the chat, and would love to hear from our audience members. Now that you have learned from Ryan, you've learned from David and from Lauren, let's set some actionable intention about what's next for your shipping and your logistics. So do you have a goal that you're going to be trying to reach, a concrete step that you're going to commit today? Would love to see in the chat anything that anybody has learned and is going to implement today. So are you going to research a new platform or test a new carrier, maybe focus on your internal process, anything like that we want to share. We've got people very interested in the custom boxes, the custom packaging, David, that you were mentioning. People are going to look into that, which is great.
I'm answering that right now too.
Awesome. All right, great. Cool. So always want to make sure that we're kind of taking what we learn and implementing it in the business. So I appreciate everybody's kind of thought process on what they're going to do next and what's on your mind. All right, so we're going to focus on internal processes, Courtney says, and again, on the boxes, the packaging, I guess, especially for the holidays, like custom packaging could be really great, something to look into to improve that customer experience. Cool. All right. Well, I think that's all the time that we're going to have for today, but I want to say a huge thank you once again to Ryan Kelly from FedEx, to Lauren Bercier, and to David Zamarin for taking time to share your expertise with us and share your experience with us. Thank you, everyone who joined us live for the seminar, taking the time to interact with us and learn with us today. I hope you feel more prepared to pack and ship your products and send them to your customers. I'm also going to drop one more link in the chat for you all today. If you have any other business questions, need any other resources, Accion Opportunity Fund, our team is always here to help. We've got lots of free resources on our site, so definitely check those out. And we will see you at the next seminar. Thanks again, everybody. Thank you, Lauren. Thank you, David, so much for your time. All right. Yeah,
Thank you.
of course.
Yes. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Have a good day, everybody.
Bye.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.